everyone. So today we are going to see about one of the services in Amazon Web Services. It is IAM, Identity and Access Management. So IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. And it is a fundamental service with Amazon Web Services that helps you to control the access to the AWS resources. So it is helping you for controlling the access to the persons with AWS Web Services. And in other words, IAM allows you to manage users, groups, roles, and permissions. So we'll see everything briefly. So users, groups, policies, and roles. So first thing, users. Users, these are the individuals who will be interacting with your AWS services. And each user has a unique username and set of security credentials. So users is nothing but a separate users. So individual users in your Amazon Web Services. So each person, when they are entering into the AWS, they have to create their own username and password. So they have their own username and password. So that's what it is. And a single user is considered as a user. So these are the individual users in your Amazon Web Services that they are interacting with the AWS resources or services. And then groups means a collection of users. Groups is a collection of users. So multiple users, they are joined as a form of group that is called groups. And you can assign permissions to the groups instead of individual users. So whenever you enter into the project, multiple people are going to work on the same project. So you can give access to you have to give access to the multiple people. So in that places, you can use the group. So if you want to give some access to the AWS resource of a particular user, you can use this particular user details. Or if you want to give access to the multiple people, so maximum scenarios, we have to give access to the multiple people because in every project, multiple people are going to work on the same project. So you have to give access to the multiple people. So groups is the mostly used. So groups are the collection of users. If you want to give access to the collection of users, you can use the groups. So you can make everyone in a single group. And after that, you can give access or permissions to the group of people. So instead of giving the individual users, that's what groups are. So which makes managing permissions more efficient. It will be more efficient manner. So it's very efficient because it's very easy to give permissions to the group of people. So then we have something called policies. So policies are JSON documents. So it's in the JSON format. So this policies is in the JSON format. So with the help of these policies, you can able to give the permissions to the users or group of users. So policies is nothing but we have, let's take, we have two users. So I'm just drawing two users. So two users are there. So you want to give read access to this first user. You want to give the read access to the first user. You can use a policy. So single policy is used to give the read access. So you can give the read access to the person. So with the help of the policies, policies are used to give the permissions to the users or group of users. Either you can give read access, or if you want to give write access to this person, you can give write access with the help of write policy. So read policy and write policy. You have the separate policies. So you can create multiple policies and some default policies also available in your AWS. So some default policies available, and also you can create your own policies by altering the JSON documents. By default, the template JSON document is available. So if you want to edit something, you can do your editings and you can give permissions according to your usage. So either you can give read permissions and then write permissions. So it's a read policy and it is a write policy. Okay, so that's what policies are. So you are going to give the permissions to the separate user or a group of users. So it's maybe anything. So it will be a separate users or group of users. So they are attached to the users or groups or roles. So these policies are attached to the users or groups. That's what I mentioned you. These policies are used to give the permissions for separate users or group of users. So that's why it is attached to the users or groups. Okay. And roles. So roles is something that we have to see in the next slide. I will explain that. And they determine what actions are allowed or denied. So this policy is going to determine the action. So what are the actions are allowed and what are the actions are denied for the particular users. So users or group of users. So what are the actions are allowed for them and what are the actions are denied for them to the particular single user or the group of users. That will be determined by the help of policies. Okay, on your AWS resource, on specific AWS resource, you can able to mention the resource also. Remember this, you can able to mention the resource. So I want to give the access to only 2 or 3 resources. For each resource you have to create a policy. So I want to give access for any of the resource to the particular user, you can create a policy for that AWS resource for the users. Okay, you can create a policy for a specific AWS resource, and you can attach the user or group of user to that specific AWS resource for the permissions. So it is helpful for giving the permissions for a separate users or group of users. Okay, so either you can give the read access or you can give the write access. Okay, fine. Then we have something called roles. So roles are used to grant permissions to entities that you don't own, like AWS services or applications running on Amazon EC2 serve instances. Roles are assumed by these entities to access resource securely. So it's very simple. Roles are. So let's take, we have a 3 users. Now I'll draw 3 users. Let's take, you have a 3 users. For these 3 users, for first user, you want to give only read access. So you want to give only read access. So you are going to create a read policy for this first user. Okay, read policy for this first user, and second user you want to give only the write access. So you are going to give the create a write policy for this second user. Okay, for this second user. But for the third user, you want to give both the read and write access. You want to give both read and write access for this third user. So what you have to do is you can merge these 2 policies to form a role. Okay, you can merge these 2 policies to create a role. So inside the role, what are the things you have? You have one thing, you have read access, and second thing you have a write access. So you can create a role by combining multiple policies. So that is what roles are. Okay, you can give read access as well as write access. So that means you can combine multiple policies and you can create a role. So I hope it's clear for everyone. So these are the things that is available in your identity and access management. With the help of this identity and access managers, you can give the permissions for your you can give the permissions of AWS resources to separate users or the group of users. Thank you, everyone.